Greetings, fiends. It's your old pal Horror Mike. Now, last Friday night, we did the all science fiction films of the 70s show. And typically, what I do on Sundays is I will do a shortened or condensed version of that show for people that don't want to stick around for 2.5 hours, right? Just to listen to me yak. Usually speaking, they're like 20 minutes or so. I don't know how long this one's going to be, but it's going to be a little different because today we're just going to be looking at Canopy.com. We're not going to be going over to Tubi because I want to introduce you to Canopy.com. If you haven't heard of it, you might want to check this out. It's fantastic. It's absolutely free. It is commercial free. There are no ads during the films, and the films are uncut. It's a win-win situation all around, folks. It's absolutely fantastic. Right now, we are looking at the front page of Canopy. Once you're logged in, you will see that every month they have, for example, this month it says Action August. So there's a lot of action films. You can see Escape from New York, The Three Musketeers, Big Boss, etc. New releases, newly added movies. There's my watch list. Of course, you will develop your own watch list. Newly added documentaries, newly added world cinema, newly added series, etc., etc. Of course, there's all genres of films. So here's how Canopy works. If you go to Canopy.com and you are a member of your local library, input your library card number into Canopy.com and see if your library is connected to Canopy.com. If it is, very easy. You're in. Once you become a member of Canopy.com, it's absolutely free. You get 24 tickets per month. Now, typically speaking, the movies that I watch on Canopy.com, which are almost all 20th century films, right? Maybe early 21st century, but typically 70s, 80s, 90s films, they're all 2 tickets each. So you got 24 tickets. They cost 2 tickets each. You will be able to see 12 feature-length films, uncut, no commercials. If your library is not connected to Canopy.com, the one thing I can suggest, find out the closest library to you that is connected to Canopy.com. Get a card, library card from that library, and then you can join Canopy.com. It's that simple, folks. I used to be a subscriber to a ton of channels, movie channels, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Shudder, Hulu, you name it. I used to subscribe to all of those. Guess what? I don't anymore. And it's because I suffered what is called subscription fatigue. Yes, that's a real thing, folks. After a year or 2 or 3, maybe maximum, I would say, of subscribing to a certain channel like Amazon Prime or Netflix, you get burned out. You simply go on to another platform, right? That's what I love about the free platforms, the ad-based platforms such as Tubi, Plex, Pluto, Freevee. Of course, they are ad-based, so you're going to have to watch some ads while you're watching your movies or series. But the variety can be excellent. Tubi is fantastic. You guys all are quite well aware of Tubi, I'm sure. Canopy is very good too. They've got a really good selection of the stuff that I like, that Horror Mike really digs, and that's typically science fiction and horror films, folks. So without further ado, let's take a look and see what I have on my list of science fiction films and a bit of sci-fi horror films. I want to show you guys in particular the variety that you can find on Canopy.com. And we are beginning with one of my favorite science fiction films of the 1970s, Phase 4. 1974 film directed by Saul Bass. Saul Bass is a graphics designer quite famous throughout the 1960s and 70s, well known for doing a ton of the 007 James Bond movie graphics, movie posters as well, including Psycho, the original Psycho movie poster, and a ton of other ones. And so, in 1973, he decided to make a film, really great science fiction film, called Phase 4. As it says, This eerie tale about super intelligent ants marks the feature film directorial debut of noted designer Saul Bass. The story concerns two scientists who install themselves in an ant-proof dome full of computer equipment that interprets the ants' communications. When the men spread yellow poison over the area, annihilating millions of ants, the surviving ants find an antidote to the poison, and even stronger, they strike back. The macro photography in this film is fantastic. You're going to see that very soon, as I'm going to show you a trailer shortly. But the story itself is just solid science fiction. You have these scientists studying these ants in the desert, and they start utilizing various poisons to kill them to see what happens. Of course, the ants mutate and they come back stronger, immune to the previous poisons that the scientists subjected them to. There are some really trippy visual sequences in this film, once again, as you will see in the trailer. And that's Saul Bass letting loose. There's no doubt about it. I understand that the Vinegar Syndrome edition, which is 4K and Blu-ray, I believe, is a 3-disc set. And it has a lot of extras, including the entire 18-minute uncut visual montage that Saul Bass made for Phase 4. So let's take a look at the trailer.
In the next few moments, we will try to give you an impression of a new kind of film experience. If your curiosity is aroused, you are ready for Phase 4.
They're sending back my message.
What does it mean?
This is no message.
If there's an intelligence there, I want it to know there's an intelligence here. I believe that they'll move rather quickly into desert areas, taking over the countryside first, then laying siege to towns and cities. We have only one chance. Weaknesses? Why don't they kill us? What do they want?
How do you fight a force that knows what your next move will be before you think of it?
The Day of the Dolphin. You may be familiar with this, or perhaps even the book. Let's take a look. Jake Terrell, George C. Scott, a biologist who devotes his life to dolphin research, has concentrated his efforts for 4 years on Alpha, an animal born and brought up in the center, and for whom he feels an almost fatherly affection. Regrettably, the outside world insists on trying to use his research for political ends, and Jake finds himself trapped tragically between those forces and his own beliefs. So the character Jake Terrell that George C. Scott plays is based upon a scientist famous for his work, particularly in the 1960s and 70s, Dr. John Lilly. And John Lilly did a ton of research on dolphins, dolphin intelligence. I have a book. It is called Communication Between Man and Dolphin. In Day of the Dolphin, one of the science fiction elements is the fact that George C. Scott's character is able to teach Alpha, the dolphin, to speak rudimentary English. Day of the Dolphin is a very intriguing film. If you like a good science fiction thriller, you should check it out. Next up, another one of my favorites from the 1970s that we covered on Friday night as well. That is Rollerball, starring James Caan. As it says in the description, from director Norman Jewison comes this high-octane thriller. Jonathan Gross, James Caan, is a legend in the most extreme sport of all time, where his moves and good looks have made him a superstar. But Cross's life in the fast lane collides with reality when he learns that the league's owner, John Houseman, is orchestrating on-court accidents to boost ratings. Now Cross plans to take down the owner and his ruthless sport. It's a future where there basically aren't any more countries. They're all corporations. The cinematography in this film is fantastic. The action is great. They really did quite a great job. Now, mistakenly, they put 2002 here, which I believe was the crappy remake. Of course, this is a 1970s film. Here is the trailer for Rollerball.
You know how the game serves us? It has a definite social purpose. Nations are bankrupt. Corporate society takes care of everything.
I'm Daphne.
Tokyo team has all these little short guys.
No player is greater than the game itself. It's not a game a man's supposed to grow strong in, Jonathan.
You're the only person I ever wanted. I wanted you on my side.
It's a significant game in a number of ways. The velocities of the ball, the awful physics of the tracks, and in the middle of it all, men. Little men.
Game! This wasn't meant to be a game!
Next up, we have Meteor, starring Sean Connery and Natalie Wood. Outer space can hardly contain all the stars that round out the extraordinary cast in this thriller. Sean Connery, Natalie Wood, Carl Malden, Brian Keith, Martin Landau, Trevor Howard, and Henry Fonda. Dr. Paul Bradley, played by Connery, is summoned to Washington by NASA Chief Harold Sherwood, played by Carl Malden, who informs him that a huge meteor will smash into the Earth in 6 days. The only chance to destroy the meteor is to work with the Soviets, revealing to them top nuclear secrets. But the clock is ticking. Meteor does have the sci-fi aspect of a meteor hitting Earth and what they're going to do to try to stop it. That is true. It is more like an international drama as well. The acting is very good. It's one of those classic big budget, all-star cast films from the 70s, much like Earthquake. That is Meteor, folks, and it is on Canopy. Next up, one of my favorite science fiction comedies, Darkstar from John Carpenter. Low-budget story of 4 astronauts in deep space whose mission is to destroy unstable planets and star systems which are about to be colonized. The late Commander Powell is stored in deep freeze, where he's still able to offer advice. As their mission nears completion, they must cope with a runaway alien which resembles a beach ball, faulty computer systems, and a smart bomb who thinks it is God. 1974 John Carpenter's film, also starring Dan O'Bannon. Yes, this is the time folks, when John Carpenter was going to film school, and all of these guys were running in the same circles. This is a hysterical film. I have it, needless to say, on DVD. It's one of those that is an absolute must for physical media. In my opinion, it is hysterical. It is very low budget, but if you haven't seen it and you want a good laugh and some good science fiction, the AI smart bomb scenarios are fantastic, both philosophical and funny at the same time. Highly recommended. Darkstar. Next up, Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978. This is the Philip Kaufman film, the second version of Jack Finney's legendary novel, The Body Snatchers, from the 1950s. Of course, also in the 1950s, Don Siegel made the first adaptation of the book called Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So this is 1978 and Philip Kaufman's adaptation. As it says, one by one, the residents of San Francisco are becoming drone-like shadows of their former selves. As the phenomenon spreads, two department health workers, Matthew Donald Sutherland and Elizabeth Brooke Adams, uncover the horrifying truth. Mysterious pods are cloning humans and destroying the originals. The unworldly invasion grows stronger with each passing minute, hurling Matthew and Elizabeth into a desperate race to save not only their own lives, but the entire human race. Fantastic version, once again, of The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney. And this does lean more towards sci-fi horror. That is true. It is a landmark film. It is on Canopy. And the next series of films I'm going to show you aren't strictly science fiction either. They're sci-fi horror for the most part. So let's take a look at what else Canopy has to offer. I just want to give you an idea, folks, as to the variety that you can expect if you join Canopy for free. The Visitor from 1979. Now, that's a completely batshit crazy movie. View it at your own peril. Let me put it that way. Somehow John Huston is in this film. Absolutely incredible. But they did have some great movie posters, and I used some of that for the thumbnail for this particular show. Next up, Horror Express. I've already covered Horror Express on a previous show about 1970s sci-fi horror films. This film, of course, stars Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. It is from 1973. A great bit of sci-fi horror. Highly recommended. Now, this is the film, Horror Express, that you can see almost everywhere. I know it's on YouTube. It's on Canopy. It's on Tubi. So you can see it everywhere. Next up, we have one of those eco-terror sci-fi films from the 70s, Frogs, from 1972. I love that graphic. That is hilarious. Jumping with action, suspense, and Southern Gothic charm. This cult classic stars Ray Milland, Sam Elliott, and Joan Van Ark, who are only a lily pad away from croaking when nature, led by thousands of murderous frogs, decides to fight back. Oh yes, one of those, it's not nice to fool with Mother Nature. Next up, Bug, based upon the Hephaestus plague, the novel. This is a 1975 sci-fi horror film. Once again, I love that graphic. That is pretty damn tasty. A massive earth tremor opens a deep crevice in the California desert, releasing a bizarre and deadly breed of foot-long cockroaches which threaten to destroy the city of Riverside before spreading across the country. Entomologist Bradford Dillman tries to find a way to deal with these virtually indestructible creatures. The roaches also seem to have a high intelligence, which makes Dillman's task nearly hopeless. This is a creepy crawler right out of the worst nightmare. Well, if you haven't seen Phantasm, I don't know what to say. Now, this is the remastered version, which came out in 2016, apparently, because they have 2016 on here. Obviously, it's from the late 1970s, the original film Phantasm, directed by Don Coscarelli. Piranha is another great one from the 70s, folks. Excuse me, sir, but the fish are eating the guests. Yes, and other classic lines from Piranha. The screenplay written by John Sayles, the film directed by Joe Dante. And there's a few more horror films on Canopy that a few of which I'm going to be covering next week, so I don't want to talk about them too much. As you can see, David Cronenberg's Rabid. Schizo is on Canopy. That is not on Tubi. I haven't seen that available on many platforms, I gotta say. Messiah of Evil is everywhere. It is fantastic. It is one of my favorite Lovecraftian horror films. If you get a chance, check it out. The original Hills Have Eyes, Wes Craven's early 1970s film, absolutely fantastic. It is on Canopy, uncut, folks, with no commercials. When a Stranger Calls. I plan on rewatching it. It's in my watch list on Canopy. It's not on Tubi. It's been years since I've seen it. The last time I saw it, probably like 20 years ago. Still very intense, very gripping thriller. I plan on rewatching it very soon. A lot of Argento on Canopy, folks, including one of his prime classics, Suspiria, Tenebrae, or Unsane, as well as Profondo Rosso, aka Deep Red. Inferno is on Canopy. So as you can see, horror-wise, science fiction-wise, they've got a really decent selection of films on Canopy. It's absolutely free to join. Once again, all you got to do is put in your library card number into the website, canopy.com. And if they are connected to Canopy, then you're in. You will be a member of Canopy, and you will get 24 tickets per month to watch any films you'd like. I'm going to be showing more films next week that are on Canopy. That will be Friday night show, which is the 1970s horror and sci-fi film finale. And then we move on to the 1960s. So that is the show for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at some of the films that Canopy has to offer. And as always, please like and subscribe. Thank you. And I'll see you Friday night.